A lot of legal issues involving President Trump. Remember him? Well, look at his latest move when it comes to immigration, which is just about everybody saying he is overstepping, not tiptoeing, but leapfrogging his rights as a president. The lawsuit also against the Trump family. This one claims they defrauded investors, and there's a pattern. Then, a rare apology from the NYPD commissioner. We'll explain what James O'Neill is so sorry about. Also, we'll talk politics tonight with ABC News political director Rick Klein. He'll weigh in on the midterms just 6 days away. Which party stands a better chance here as we head down the home stretch? Evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us. And we begin tonight with President Trump saying that he wants to end birthright citizenship. Now, that's a right granted by the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. It's not Rich's theory here, okay? A couple hours ago, he doubled down on that, and he says this does not present a problem.
You don't need a constitutional amendment for birthright citizenship. I believe that you can have a simple vote in Congress, or it's even possible, in my opinion, this is after meeting with some very talented legal scholars, that you can do it through an executive order. Now, I'd rather do it through Congress because that's permanent, but we can certainly do it through, I really believe we can do it through executive order.
Reportedly put a call into LegalZoom. I kid. Anyway, just about every legal expert, except the ones that Trump supposedly spoke with, says, yes, absolutely, very talented, that the president, no president can simply have the authority to just end something that, oh, I don't know, we have a constitutional amendment for. They also say if he does have an issue with an executive order, the courts would overturn it. So this thing is DOA. And again, don't take my word for it. Paul Ryan, remember him? The Speaker of the House, a Republican? He agrees with the legal scholars. Take a listen to Paul Ryan earlier.
Well, you obviously cannot do that. You cannot end birthright citizenship with an executive order. We didn't like it when Obama tried changing immigration laws via executive action, and obviously as conservatives, we believe in the Constitution. As a conservative, I'm a believer in following the plain text of the Constitution, and I think in this case the 14th Amendment's pretty clear. And that would involve a very, very lengthy constitutional process.
Well, of course, the president wouldn't let this go. Of course, he had something to say, and of course, it was via tweet. This is the president now to his Speaker of the House 6 days before the midterms. Paul Ryan should be focusing on holding the majority rather than giving his opinions on birthright citizenship, something he knows nothing about! Exclamation point. Now, again, I think most people would probably side with Paul Ryan over Donald Trump when it comes to constitutional knowledge, but I digress. Several other Republicans also agree with Speaker Ryan, especially those representing districts with a lot of immigrants. I want to introduce our legal panel right now. Jim Kasouris, he's a criminal defense attorney in Manhattan. He sits on the board of directors of the New York City Criminal Bar Association. He also frequently lectures at the New York Law School and the bar associations in Queens and New York City. Doug Van Oist, founding partner of Kars and Van Oist, focusing on corporate misconduct and selected by the Legal 500 as one of the most influential trial lawyers in the country. And Mayo Bartlett, an attorney at the law offices of Mayo Bartlett PLC and a former chief of the Bias Crimes Unit at the Westchester County DA's office. Okay.
I can't wait for that.
Okay.
I can't wait.
As a 1L student, in your first, you take constitutional law, right? We all understand in grammar school about separation of powers. Remember the legislative, then you have the judicial branch, and then you have the executive branch where the president resides. We don't have crowns on kings or tiaras or whatever on other royalty in this country. We have co-equal branches of government, and a president can't decide the Constitution doesn't count anymore.
But it is Halloween.
It is.
Right?
It
so
is.
you can have. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous,
though, really,
and it really doesn't. It doesn't require much discussion. The Constitution provides for certain rights that people have, and in order to abolish those rights, in order to take those rights away, you need a constitutional amendment, and as Speaker Ryan said, it is a very lengthy process in order to do that. The notion that somebody supposedly is telling the President of the United States that you can eliminate a constitutional right by executive order is unfathomable. It's just, I don't know what to tell you. It's crazy.
I don't think it's that clear. So the method he's talking about by doing it by executive order, that may be completely off the mark. But you're looking at something, it's an 1868 act, basically, where the two people that had the child were both in the country legally. They had a child, and that child was given citizenship. What he's talking about testing, but he's not articulating very well, is he's trying to test, what he wants to test is if two people are here, or the mother is here illegally, and a child is born, should that child get citizenship? That's what it's a different set of facts.
I grant
the
you
method
that.
of
You're
getting
right,
there may be different.
But the
you
Constitution...
don't even get to that as an issue because he maintains that he can unilaterally do that and that there is no mechanism in his understanding of the law where the justice, judicial branch or the legislative branch have any role in this whatsoever, that he can unilaterally rewrite the Constitution, Doug. To me, that's even more significant than, and you're right, it is unsettled law. Most people have taken this as fact, but still, I grant you can have a debate. To me, Mayo, it's the scary part that he believes that he knows. Remember how he said he knew more than the generals? I don't want to make this a political conversation about him, but in this particular case, he knows more than everyone in terms of how the Constitution works. And I think half the problems, or a decent chunk of them, is there is no core civics knowledge in terms of how the government is supposed to operate and the role of the electorate, the role of the elected in Congress, and the role of the courts. And then you get to something like this, which I think clearly was a political ploy here with a week to go in the election. You throw red meat out because you're worried about a blue wave. But nonetheless, to double and triple down to say, I can do this because I'm the president and you're not.
I don't think he actually believes that. I think that at the end of the day, our branches of government have not operated as if they're equal, and they haven't done that for a very long time. So quite often, you have the Supreme Court acting beyond its mandate and selecting a president and doing a host of other things. You have Congress basically giving up all of their power to the executive over the last probably 5 or 6, maybe more presidents, not requiring any president to actually go through and declare an actual war, but allowing them to skirt constitutional requirements. And it's no less a possibility that he could say that I can take away free speech, because you know what, if we don't challenge that, then it'll be gone. And you can convene a constitutional convention, and eventually if you get enough people to vote that way, then you won't have those rights anymore.
But this is a clear non-starter where nobody seems to be taking the bait here to believe that a president can look at a constitution and say, okay, I'm going to subtract number 6, number 11, and 14 here because.
Well, the issue, though, is that, both parties, but in particular right now we have the Republicans in office. Paul Ryan's talking about the Constitution, yet the Constitution clearly should have permitted Barack Obama to select the last Supreme Court justice, and also.
But those are, I grant you that, and I'll agree with you to the cows come home that the way that it was handled with Merrick Garland was wrong, but that was a legislative obstructionary move. This is someone saying that one branch of government will basically eliminate all checks and balances and will decide what rights as Americans we have without any oversight. And to me, that's the far more troubling thing. It's not going to go anywhere. We may have this debate, to Doug's point here, where the courts eventually may revisit it, just like there's a whole bunch of issues that I think they'll revisit, including DACA and the rest here.
But Congress has allowed that. So that's what allows him to feel that he can do this. And in his mind, to his base, it's something that they want.
See, I empirically disagree with you. You think he knows he can't do it. It's just a political stunt.
Oh, absolutely.
I believe down deep he thinks he can, because I don't think he knows.
But I also think he believes.
But I don't think the Constitution, I understand what Doug is saying, that it was predicated on a different set of facts, but I don't think the Constitution distinguishes between the legality or illegality of the parents'
Let me get to
presence.
legality with the president, because this one predates him as president. He is facing, the president that is, yet another lawsuit. And this one claims that he and his family defrauded investors. I know you've heard this one before. But this is not the last versions of this. Hardly news here that Trump has settled to the tune of $25 million. For example, the Trump University class action suit. That one claimed that students were completely hustled with false promises, upselling, and a school that wasn't even accredited calling itself a university. Then there is the Trump Foundation. New York State sued the charity, claiming it violated campaign finance laws and abused its tax-free status. The suit also claims foundation money was used to pay for things like a portrait of Trump to hang at a country club. That one cost 20 grand. This one is an active suit. Now, the latest one, it claims that Trump and his adult kids, including Doug's favorite Eric, were peddling phony get-rich-quick schemes and taking payments from companies that they were pitching. One example, a marketing company called ACN. The suit says that Trump was selling people on investing, saying there were no risks involved. The company had $500 million in sales. None of that was even remotely true. Trump's also accused of convincing people to sign up for ACN events to increase their sales, but there was zero payoff for them. Suit also claims the family deliberately misled consumers by using Donald's image as a successful businessman to get them to buy into the scams. And you know, I'll never forget, Doug, that one hustle they ran in Baja, right on the other side on the Mexican border, where they set up a room with a giant monitor with a clock ticking down. They were serving everybody lobsters. These were middle-class people, like retired teachers, etc. Buy the dream home in this one area. As it builds up, you'll build the equity in these houses. Everything will be terrific. We'll take care of you. So everybody raced to try and beat this imagined or manufactured deadline, and not a single unit got built. He intentionally set it up in Mexico so there'd be no recourse to him, and everyone at the end of the day was left holding in the bag. We've seen it with Trump U and all the other examples, and too many more for me to count. It's amazing that you can defraud investors so easily in this country and get away with it and keep doing it.
Well, if you're talking about the Trump frauds, it's my understanding that the Trump organization lends their names to many companies, and for the right to use their name, they get a proportion of the profits. There may be, you know, lawsuits can be very complex things. There may be in these lawsuits.
I'm sorry to interrupt, I'll let go. But you're right. They lent their name, their branding in effect. But they also lent what went along with the name. The pretense that, in the case of Trump U, that he directly would be involved in the university, that his record of success was going to do all the following. It wasn't just a name on a building. None of those things were true, and they made representations in everything, all the different real estate deals, the colleges, this investing opportunity, etc., that there was going to be direct involvement on their part, which never happened, let alone really seemed to be part of the plan. It was just a phony promise.
Well, the only point that I'm trying to make is, and I'm not trying to defend the Trump organization. I have no intention of doing that.
You are a graduate of Trump U.
Yeah. Right. So, but they could have equally been deceived by the people that asked them to lend their name. So if this lawsuit plays out, you may find that they have a claim against the people that said, hey, if we use your name, we'll give you some of the profit. They may have been deceived also. But that's my only point.
Isn't there a culpability, Jimmy?
But
if you put your name attached to it, that something comes along with that, an expectation?
It depends. It depends on, you know, the contractual provisions and whether or not you are held harmless from any misrepresentations or so on and so forth. But doesn't this suit allege that his children were personally involved in the pitches?
Yes.
So this isn't, I don't think the
in
entire
person
thing,
too.
Right, I don't think the entire thing is about lending their name and then having some other entity make misrepresentations.
And by the way, I should mention, both the university, that Baja project, they were personally there making the personal pitches, not just Donald Trump, but also members of the family as well. To me, there's a buyer beware aspect of it. And again, shame on you if you're going to buy, snake oil from a snake oil salesman, but you have a right as a consumer to have some level of expectation that what you're being pitched, there's a semblance of fact or reality to it.
Why? I mean, now you're talking about regulations. Who needs that, right? Why would you need somebody to come in and make sure that a business doesn't actually, promise something that they have no intention of fulfilling? So when you stop,
but isn't that the definition of fraud?
Wait a minute. How many of our clients get a pass?
None of I'm trying to find one.
Me too.
And it's interesting also, when you look at Elon Musk, for instance.
But that is fraud, what you just defined.
But absolutely. But if you look at Elon Musk and an investigation right now into whether Tesla misled investors about how many cars they produce. Now, nobody debates that they produce cars, and you see them all over the place. Nobody debates that they made money. This is absolutely no different. So one of the issues also is that federal agencies have tremendous discretion in terms of who they decide to target when they go into these investigations.
We will continue to follow the case. When we come back, though, we will pivot to politics for a moment. I'll be joined by my friend over at ABC News, political director Rick Klein, as we are very close here to the midterms. Which party stands on which issues, what their closing arguments are, and who is closing better here as some of the early voting numbers are coming in. Stay with us.